Hubble Space Telescope story begins with an astronomer named Lyman Spitzer. He wrote a paper called Astronomical Advantages of an Extraterrestrial Observatory that basically said that space telescopes are better than ground telescopes. Spitzer then devoted a lot of his career to trying to make this telescope a reality. The U.S. National Academy of Science appointed him as head of committee for this task. Also, before it became an official NASA project, Nancy Grace Roman, the mother of Hubble, started giving public lectures and speeches explaining the importance that this project could provide to the world. Her work set the stage for NASA's production of these large products. In 1970, NASA made two separate committees, one for the engineering aspect of the project and other for the scientific part of the project. After the committees were established, the quest for funding for this astronomical project began. To start, the U.S. Congress questioned some aspects of the project and cut some of the funding from it, but then in 1977, NASA Administrator James C. Fletcher proposed $5 million for the initial budget, but NASA Associate Administrator for the Space Science Noel Hinners cut all funding because he said that this project would be so good that a ton of people would be fighting to fund for the project. The plan worked, and many astronomers became lobbying for this project, and the Senate finally agreed to half of the original budget. These issues cut the scale of the project both for money concerns and to make it more compact and efficient. Congress eventually approved the funding of $36 million for 1978, and the design for the telescope began, aiming for a launch date of 1983. Once the project was given the green light to start production, the work was divided amongst many places. For example, the Marshall Space Flight Center was given responsibility for the design, development, and construction of the telescope, while Goddard Space Flight Center was tasked with the scientific problems of the telescope, and thus the production finally began. The launch for the telescope was planned for October of 1986, but then the Challenger launch disaster happened and brought the U.S. space program to a stop, and the launch was delayed for several years. While the launch was delayed, the telescope was kept in a clean room that was super expensive to operate and pushed the price of the project up super far. It also allowed more tests to happen and components to be swapped out. Also, the software required for ground control was not ready in 1986, and more importantly, it was barely ready in 1990 for the launch as well. But the mission pushed on, and Space Shuttle Discovery successfully launched Hubble on April 24, 1990 at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. As the first telescope images were being returned, scientists and engineers found that the pictures were not even close to the predicted image quality and knew something was wrong. The shape of Hubble's mirror was off by only 2 micrometers, or about 1/50th the thickness of a human hair, but that was enough for the images received to be very noticeably less sharp and blurry. The good thing about Hubble is that it was designed to be able for a scientist to repair it in space, unlike all other space instruments at the time. NASA began the repair project called CoStar to fix this mirror issue. CoStar worked by having 2 smaller mirrors to direct the light in just the amount it needed to get the light in the right direction. On December 2, 1993, the Space Shuttle launched with 7 astronauts and CoStar to fix this telescope after $50 million in designing CoStar. After it was repaired, the images were just as intended as when Hubble first launched. Ever since then, Hubble has taken some of the most iconic images in space history, such as Pillars of Creation, Hubble Deep Field, and one of my favorites, Sombrero Galaxy M104. Hubble is aging and may be retiring within the next few years, but it is still in space and will be the mark of human innovation for many, many years to come.